Hey friends and fellow gamers, if you didn't know, when you get yourselves an E5 hero, you unlock the Void. Now the Void is a game mode that includes two key currencies that will help your progress. The first is Crystals of Transcendence, and the second is Stellar Shards. Now Stellar Shards are used to upgrade heroes with Void enables, to Void 4 for example, which is the max level a hero can currently be. But there's also Crystals of Transcendence, where if you collect 5 million of them, you can cash them in to purchase a fancy smancy transcended hero. It could be a Sword Flash, it could be a Scarlet Queen Halora, or it could be the brand new hero that came out this week that everyone's talking about, Asmodel the Dauntless. Now the question I'm hopefully answering today is whether it is really worth going for this brand new hero, because I know a lot of people who saved up 5 million cores of Transcendence and went straight in to get themselves a copy of Asmodel without asking the question whether it was better to go for Queen or Seer. So that's hopefully what I'll answer today. Let's start by taking a look at Asmodel the Dauntless' stats. First thing is his speed. It comes in at 1280 in his 10-star form. How does that compare with the other Transcendence heroes? Well, Halora is quicker, coming in at 1292, and Seer is still quicker, but not as quick as Halora, coming in at 1286. Is that important? Well, a little bit, because it means he can be hit first, and it lets our heroes do their thing before he gets to smack them with his active skill. Now, what's so special about his active skill? Well, it deals a ton of damage to start. It does 800% of attack damage to backline enemies. Now that's important. It specifies the enemies it hits, which means heroes are safer, technically, if they're on the front line. It also reduces their armor by 35% and reduces their speed by 50 for 5 rounds. Now this speed decrease increases when you Void enable him as well, so I think it can go up to 80 for the speed decrease, which is really nice. Now one thing I did say, for a new hero that was going to upset the meta, it needed to give a speed debuff, unlike how Rogan increases the speed of your team, because Forkis punishes heroes that basically improve the stats of your team. So currently Rogan's having a tough time in the meta, because if Forkis marks your heroes, Rogan will then buff them with his speed increase, and your heroes will take a ton of damage from Forkis' mark. Asmodel the Dauntless gets around this by debuffing the opponent, which is something Forkis cannot stop or punish, so that's really, really cool. In addition, after he does his active skill, he deals additional damage equal to 640% of Asmodel the Dauntless' attack to all enemies. And for every stack of revenge, which is a little thing that he can do, he then punishes opponents, dealing even more damage up to 3 times, and then removes 3 stacks of revenge. So basically, his active skill hits like an absolute freight train, and also decreases the speed of opponents. Now, a question people are asking is, do you want this to go round 1, or do you want this to go round 2? That's another thing I'm going to discuss, but before I answer that, let's look at the rest of his skills. He has Sacred Sword. It's a basic attack that deals 600% of attack damage to frontline enemies, with additional damage of 12% of the target's max HP, up to 1500% of Asmodel the Dauntless' attack. Now the reason it has that is so that he can't just deal a ton of damage to guild bosses, although technically he already does do a load of damage, but that's just because he's a massive damage dealing platform, and people have been doing very well with him in PvE. Also, he gains Control Immunity. That's huge. And this isn't 15%, it actually goes even higher when you Void enable him, which is super sweet. So combine this with the Control Immunity passive that you can gain from the imprint tree, you can get his Control Immunity really high, which is super good for countering opponents with Cruces, and also potentially against Sherlocks. Another ability he has is Last Man Standing. Whenever an ally is killed, Asmodel the Dauntless has his HP restored twice, each giving 12% of max HP, and this goes up to 15% when you get him imprinted. In addition, he increases his all damage dealt, which means he deals more damage as your team falls, which means if you can keep him alive into further rounds, he's going to hit like a freight train. The only times I get wrecked by Asmodel in PvP is when the opponents have wiped him out, I've dealt a ton of damage to them, and he's still standing and then hits my backline. There is no chance any of my heroes are surviving his active skill after he's increased his all damage dealt and also gets those revenge marks. If Asmodel does get a buffed up active skill off, he's gonna hit like a king. Now another reason he hits so strong is when someone dies, he inflicts 2 stacks of revenge to the attacker, which is fantastic. If you didn't remember, the revenge is also what deals additional damage, so he's going to cut through opponents and break through those unbending will shields with a ton of damage. It's very nice. His final passive is Valorous Guardian. At the beginning of battle and the end of each round, he grants one ally with the lowest HP glorious support for 1 round. Now this is pretty sweet. Whenever Asmodel the Dauntless takes damage from active skills or basic attacks, he inflicts 1 stack of revenge to the attacker and gains 8% crit bonus for 3 rounds. So basically, when he takes damage, he's getting all these lovely bonuses, increasing his crit and stacking out revenge. But the glorious support, which is the thing he gives to the lowest HP ally, that increases their all damage reduction by 25%, and also whenever the affected hero takes damage from an active skill or basic attack, they inflict one more stack of revenge to the person who attacked them, and also increase Asmodel's precision by 12%. Now precision doesn't just get around block, it also increases damage dealt. So if you can't already tell, Asmodel is an absolute freight train. He deals an absolute ton of damage. But the key thing that I like for PvP is this speed debuff. So there's two ways of building Asmodel right now. You let him do a basic attack and bring out revenges and get an active skill round 2 where he's going to debuff their speed, but the key thing is he's going to deal a ton of damage. And remember, dead is the best CC, and Asmodel the Dauntless is definitely killing people. Or you go for an active skill round 1 and hopefully, fingers crossed, slow down opponents and punish them for it. Now the question I want to raise to you is, which do you think is better in PvP? The current PvP meta isn't really seeing a lot of people running carry, so Asmodel getting an active skill off is awesome. However, if you do start facing people who are running carries, Asmodel is instantly going to get punished. If Asmodel gets his energy stolen, he's not getting that active skill. However, he is quick. He comes in at 1280, which means he is quicker than carry. Now that's important. That means if you give him an energy artifact, he can outspeed energy carries and hopefully not get wrecked by them and get his energy stolen. So my friends, I personally, if using an Asmodel, would run him with energy to debuff the opponent's speed in PvP. But unfortunately, if you do that, he's not going to deal a lot of damage. So that then raises the question, is he a good first Void hero? From the testing I've done on people's accounts that have all 3 Transcendence heroes, I found he performed best with energy when Queen and also Swordflash Seer could deal the damage for the team. If you end up in a situation where he's your only hero, I think you need to change that mindset and build him to do a basic attack round 1 so that his revenge will deal all the damage you can. Now, that comes with a problem. If his basic attack goes off, if you didn't know, it targets the front line. Now, the most common enemies you'll find on front lines are carries, Swordflash Seers, or Sherlocks. Now, 2 of those opponents can dodge you, and Sherlock is an absolute pain in the backside. If his basic attack hits Sherlock, the chances are very high that Sherlock will then health swap, because Asmodel the Dauntless deals a ton of damage. And that health swap is then going to ruin your team, because you have all these high health Transcendence heroes, or mainly Asmodel is going to be the high health Transcendence hero if he's your main Transcendence hero, and his health's going to go zoop and absolutely shrink. That then leaves the opponent's other heroes, such as an Energy Tix, that then just go woohoo, bam, and smack you. And Asmodel is quicker than Tix, so you don't want to set yourself up for a punishment like that. Now, what does that mean for little old Asmodel? It means that I don't really like him getting a basic attack off round 1, because you're just going to walk into Sherlocks. And guys, if you're facing Asmodel the Dauntlesses that are using a basic attack round 1, stick a Sherlock in slot 2 or slot 1 and just boop, health swap them. Nice little trick to get around this guy. As well, run carries, because carry is amazing right now. Carry can energy steal this guy, which means you don't have to worry about this insane active skill. Because at the end of the day, when you see a hero with an amazing active skill that's going to be present in the meta, that means, guys, you need carry in your team. And I'm running 2 carries right now, and it's working out very nicely. Carry can punish a lot of heroes with crazy active skills, and Asmodel the Dauntless is no exception. So if you can just keep your heroes safe, you'll be fine. However, some people won't be able to keep their heroes safe, and you might find yourselves getting smacked a little too hard by Asmodel the Dauntless. As well, if you get a carry to stick on the front line, you can energy steal an Asmodel the Dauntless, and he's going to keep trying to attack the front line. And I've had fights where carry has just sat there and dodged, and then attacked, energy stolen, and then dodged, and then attacked, energy stolen, and just kept Asmodel doing a basic, meaning he's unable to touch the backline because his basic attack hits only the front line, and that's left my backline heroes completely safe to do a ton of killing. And my backline hero is where I put my damage dealers, so that's definitely not good news for Asmodel the Dauntless. So again, in my opinion, and people's opinions will be different, but I think an energy Asmodel the Dauntless is the main use in PvP. Getting that speed debuff is hugely helpful. If he can survive into later rounds, then yes, you're going to deal a ton of damage with his active skill. But you'll find that, unfortunately, if he gets an active skill early, he's going to remove revenge stacks. However, if you do it early enough, there won't be any revenge stacks, so you'll hopefully be okay. Now, how do you counter Asmodel further? Well, Swordflash Sire is able to dodge, which means you can put her on the back line and she's not even going to get any of the effects. Because if you hopefully get a dodge with her, you're not going to get that speed debuff because his attack didn't land. You're going to be completely fine. So Sia's pretty safe. So if you guys are planning for PvP, Swordflash and Scarlet Queen are pretty much better heroes. I find a Scarlet Queen's buffs that she gives to the whole team and the massive damage she deals with her active skill is far superior than running just Asmodel on your team. So if you guys have just managed to reach 5 million Crystals of Transcendence and you're like, okay, who should I go for? I think Scarlet Queen or Swordflash are your best picks. Now Swordflash is the better pick for you if you're struggling against enemies in the Void Arc, mainly those bosses that can be quite problematic. Swordflash and Ithaca are the only two heroes that can really deal with the much higher level bosses you face when you get to Sector 6. So if you don't already have an Ithaca, maybe a Swordflash is a hero to go for. However, I personally think Scarlet Queen is the better choice, mainly because she can buff your entire team, she can do very well in the Void Vortex, and she has excellent usefulness across various game modes, including even in PvE. You can do a kind of Delacium army with her. Not as good as Ithaca, but still she has this amazing damage over time that if you can duplicate, you're going to be dealing a ton of damage. So in my mind, I think Scarlet Queen is a much better standalone hero than Asmodel. Will an Asmodel work well? Yes, he will deal a ton of damage, he'll be a fantastic hero. However, on his own, if you're trying to make a good team for PvP, I don't think Asmodel is going to work just quite yet. I think it's more important to have other Transcendence heroes alongside him. So once I enter the Void, it's in my interest to pick up either Swordflash or Queen first. Then, really for PvP, Swordflash is the best one, so if that's what you're focusing on, you probably then want to pick up Swordflash or Scarlet Queen, whichever one you didn't pick up first. And then that kind of leaves you going, alright, Asmodel, I'll pick him last. Does that mean you need to go and get 15 million Crystals of Transcendence and get all three of these heroes? Maybe, if you want to stay relevant in PvP and have the absolute best team right now. Is that something you have to do? No. If you do want an idea of what a super perfect endgame team looks like right now, if you guys are curious what the PvP meta is calling towards, it's having all three of these heroes, Scarlet Queen, Swordflash, and also Asmodel the Dauntless. With those three together, you would then pair them with a Sherlock that you can put on the front line to then also punish Asmodel's and also work in his tricksy little ways, which is great. Then you have 2 slots left. These final 2 slots are for heroes that can offer additional disruption that will give you the advantage, and this will often depend on what your opponent's got. Safe choices to go for are a Rogan and a Forkis, or maybe a Rogan and a Drake. Some people like running 2 carries, so that you can actually pair 2 carries with Sherlock, which is a great little endgame lineup. Some people want to be really aggressive and run Rogan with Drake, as I said earlier. That's going to deal a lot of damage, especially with the Rogan buffs going into Swordflash. Maybe you want Rogan with Amun-Ra, or maybe you want Carry and Amun-Ra. Either way, whichever way you do it, you want some disruption in there. Your damage is completely covered by Asmodel, by Scarlet Queen, and absolutely by Swordflash. So my friends, do you need to pick up an Asmodel right now? No, I do not recommend him as a first Transcendence hero. If you're looking for a first Transcendence hero and are unsure, my advice would be to go for a Scarlet Queen. However, if you really wanted to, you can't go wrong with a Swordflash. Asmodel is more niche. His speed debuff is what makes him good, but then you also need the other Transcendence heroes to capitalize on that. If you're going to go for pure damage with him, you might find yourself getting punished by Sherlocks or by carries, and that may put you in a little bit of an awkward situation, or you're running him with energy, in which case he might just end up being too slow, and again, you get punished by Sherlock and by carries. So the final thing I'm going to talk about is what do you do? What do you do when you are facing these Transcendence heroes? Do you spend a ton of money and buy them yourself? No, I think there are perfectly good PvP teams that can do completely fine. All you need to do, guys, is pick up a Tix. A Tix will be excellent. A Tix can deal a great active skill early on, and that's going to help disrupt the opponent. Forkis, great disruptive opponent. If you want to have carries in there, I strongly recommend it, and also you need a Sherlock. Sherlock is probably the best non-Transcendence hero in the game now for PvP. And I probably want to say he is the best. I'm actually going to put my head on the line there and say Sherlock is the best non-Transcendence PvP hero in the meta right now. So if you haven't already got a Sherlock, grab one of them and just go and disrupt the opponent. I think you can do fine. Will you win? Not always. If someone has 3 Transcendence heroes, you're going to struggle. And if you want to compete in the highest endgame PvP, you're going to need all the Transcendence heroes. That's kind of how it is. So basically, in my mind, for PvP, it's get a queen, and you'll be fine. Or just get all 3 of them, and just go to town, basically. It's hard to tell who's really going to be amazing right now because everything's kind of lopped. People are high or low rolling spheres and they might not have the equal amount of stellar shards, so it's kind of all over at the moment. When we have everyone with Void 4 heroes, or at least everyone in the endgame with Void 4 heroes, we'll have a much better idea. But even then, star spawns are messing up what's around, and there's a lot of variance in the meta right now. So if you really are just trying to stay relevant in PvP, I don't think picking up Asmodel is going to help you. If you want to stay relevant in PvP, you're going to struggle anyway. Just grab a Scarlet Queen, hope for the best, and really just focus on the Void. That's the main game mode you're going to succeed in, and Scarlet Queen and Sword Flash will do you fine there. You don't necessarily need an Asmodel. So if you found this video useful, if I've hopefully saved you from picking up an Asmodel super early, let me know in the comment section down below. I've seen a lot of people who have just instantly gone for Asmodel, and I'm just really disappointed for them because I think they'll get a lot more mileage out of a Queen or a Sword Flash. So let me know what you're deciding, and I know a lot of you out there are probably, you know, not even having an E5 yet, and you don't even know what the Void is, you haven't tried it out, and then when you do get to the Void, there'll probably be other Transcendence heroes, so this is probably only helpful for people that are here right now, staring at the Void, and not sure what to do. Either way, guys, if you liked this content, be sure to subscribe, and catch some more stuff in the future. But until next time, happy idle.